So we're back talking about the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Criticism, defensiveness, stonewalling, all things we can tolerate some of, but not too much. But contempt is the thing that marriages won't tolerate. Gottman at one point says contempt is the sulfuric acid of marriage, that it will almost immediately eat away at anything you have going on that's good or healthy or right. Contempt happens when you have this terrible lack of respect, sarcasm, uh, just that nasty tone of voice. I tell people sometimes that you can't drop the F-bomb on someone. That's contempt. You can't say, "You're so stupid." That's contempt. You can't say, "You're ridiculous," or "You're such a baby," or uh, you know, I don't know why I married you. Those kinds of things that most of us wouldn't say to our spouse, but you know that people do that. And so I'll tell couples the first thing that you've got to do is you've got to decide, are there any places where you or your partner expresses contempt for the other one? And if there are, you got to cut them out. There's no question. There's no gray area. There's no messing around with it. You have to make a decision. You have to draw a line in the sand for yourself and for your couple and say, that will not happen. We will not call each other names. We will not cuss at each other. We will not use that nasty, ugly tone of voice with each other. We will not be ugly to each other. And just decide it won't happen. Never, ever, ever, ever. Second thing, look at how critical you are, how defensive you are, how much you stonewall with your partner, and decide, I've got to cut that out. I've got to work hard to not be defensive. I've got to make myself stop before I criticize. I've got to realize when I stonewall and work on fixing that, because we can't stand very much of that. This has been really useful to me. I've had couples that, if they could just employ these four things to try to take some of the negativity out of the relationship, they tend to do pretty well. Again, this is kind of in line with the other guys that we talked about, because what Gottman's saying here is it doesn't matter how much good stuff you're doing. One really horrible screaming, yelling, cussing fit is devastating. Markman and Bloomberg said at one point, that what they saw in their research was that one really ugly incident tended to kind of balance out about 17 good things. So we got to be really careful about couples that are doing the wrong stuff. Quit teaching them so much about doing the good. Figure out how they can manage the bad. Get rid of some of the bad. Okay. And Gottman and these other folks are both kind of about that process. Gottman also says that there are 7 principles that make your marriage work and maybe help you have a more healthy relationship over time. Number 1, he says, enhance your love map. Now, that's kind of a weird idea, but basically that's kind of about all of the ways that we express love to each other and we show love to each other. Think about what it means to your partner. This is kind of related to that idea of love languages. If you like that idea better, then use that idea. It's about how you express love to your partner, how they receive it, what means something to them, what's important to them. So think about enhancing the way that you do that. Second thing, nurture your fondness and admiration for each other. That's kind of just about learning to like each other, saying nice things to each other, saying please and thank you. I've told couples sometimes one of the things that I think is kind of interesting about McDonald's restaurants is, if you've ever been in McDonald's, I don't know if they still do this corporately, but they used to. It used to be that if you worked at McDonald's, one of the things that always happened was you always said please and thank you. To your coworkers. So if somebody said, I need 2 Big Macs, and they'd say thank you, and then somebody back there would say fries are up, and then the person at the front would say thank you, and they would say please and thank you to each other. it just set a tone of being polite. Even if they didn't like each other, they were nice to each other. And that's kind of what we're talking about in marriage. Don't be snotty to each other. Say please. Say thank you. If your partner takes out the trash, say, hey, thanks for taking out the trash. If somebody makes lunch, say, thanks for lunch. Lunch was good. Thanks for filling up the car with the gas. Thanks for paying the bills last night. All of those kinds of things just help us like each other more. And liking is important. You can feel passionate love for somebody, but you got to like somebody to stay with them for a long time. Turn toward each other instead of turning away. One of the things that happens is when we have conflict, when we have crises, when we have bad things happen to us, healthy, happy couples turn toward each other. Sometimes it's really tempting to turn away, because sometimes if we have trouble with a kid, for example, sometimes turning toward our partner is uncomfortable and hard because maybe we disagree, or maybe we blame them or they blame us. But healthy, happy people turn toward each other more than they turn away. So we have to make people figure out how to do that. Number 4, let your partner influence you. This is really hard for men, I think, more than women, because we're supposed to be in charge. Some of us think we're supposed to be the leaders of the household, or the boss of the household, or the spiritual leader, or whatever. We have to let our partners influence us. We have to listen to our partners. It's really unusual and kind of weird, but, well, it's not unusual, it's just kind of weird. A lot of times we listen to people outside of our marriage more than we listen to our partners. Honestly, I've been guilty of doing that before about some things. It doesn't make any sense. My wife is one of the smartest people I know. She's incredibly well educated. She's competent in a billion ways. She cares more about me than anybody else in the world. I trust her more than anybody else in the world. Why in the world would I not listen to her? Well, because of pride and stupidity, but I've got to learn to listen to her. And we have to let our partners influence us. Men are really, really bad about not listening to their wives, and we have to do that. It's not just because it's smart, it's because it makes your relationship better. We've got to solve the solvable problems. We can't solve everything, but we solve the things that we can. Okay? And we let the other things go, or we learn to deal with them. Number 6, we deal with gridlock. We overcome gridlock by giving in, by saying, you know what, this is not that important to me that I'm going to hurt our relationship. We're going to do what you want to do. I want to do what you want to do. I want you to be happy here. Another word for this, being unselfish. Quit being a baby. You can't be married and act like a 5-year-old or a 12-year-old. You have to be an adult. Only adults can be married for a long time and make it work. Be unselfish. Don't be self-centered. Don't be egocentric. Get over yourself. Make the other person more important than you are. That's a biblical model. Last thing, create shared meaning. Do stuff together. Spend time together. Have experiences together. Work through things together. Think about your future together. Think about where are we going to be in 2 years, and 5 years, and 10 years. Share your dreams with each other. If you could do anything in the world and money wasn't an object, if we could go anywhere in the world and money wasn't an object, where would we go? What would we do? Understand each other's dreams. Those are some of Gottman's principles. We'll be right back.